Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. We do have a question today. I'm going to get to that first thing. Which Giants team has been your favorite to watch in your life? You know, there'd be several great answers to that question for someone who'd seen Giants games from every year that they've been in existence. But I haven't seen games where Willie Mays and Willie McCovey have played, or Will Clark in the 80s and 90s, or Barry Bonds. And Bonds might be like the best Giant of all time, although like Willie Mays would be close competition, but they're just games from those eras where the Giants have just had legendary players that I just haven't seen. But again, just multiple great answers to that question for anyone who has. As far as what I've seen firsthand on recorded videos, the 2014 World Series team is what comes to my mind. I actually wasn't following baseball back then, but for those of you who were, I'm sure that watching that series, especially Game 7, just brings back those memories to your mind. Giants team was great. It had guys like Madison Bumgarner, Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford, and Brandon Belt, Hunter Pence, Pablo Sandoval, and these guys were in their prime. And it was just a great team. I think really fun to watch. So I'm sure that just hearing me say that brings back memories for those of you who were paying attention when they won that World Series. And even in comparison to like 2012, which was a 4-game sweep, I think the 2014 World Series was just way more intense, it going to 7 games than the Giants for at least 5 innings, clinging to a 1-run lead, and you just see the pressure get more intense every single inning as the Giants are clinging to that 1-run lead, and Bumgarner's just throwing it out there. So I think that was just a great time for the Giants. That Game 7 was just a great one to watch. And even that last play of the game, the last out, when Salvador Perez popped out to Pablo Sandoval, it was a very routine infield pop-up, but clearly you can just see the intensity on that play as Sandoval rushes over to get the ball. It's a routine play, but watching that, you can clearly see just the whole intensity, and then he grabs it, and he jumps up in celebration, and soon all the Giants are joining him. To me, watching that, obviously, I don't remember anything from my own experience following baseball, but it sure does give me insight into what I want the Giants to look like in the future and what they somehow need to build themselves right back into being. So if you ask me, it's the 2014 World Series team that is just the most memorable thing. And I think I speak for a lot of Giants fans that it's just the most memorable thing in their minds. And that's the kind of a team that I would immediately think of to say I want the Giants to be again. Of course, along those lines, same thing could be said for the other recent World Series titles of the last decade, 2010 and 2012. But yeah, I think that time for the Giants was just one where having all these guys who have obviously regressed up to this point, most of them have left the Giants, I think that's just, I speak for all of us when I say it's what we want the team to look like again. And I think it's just unfortunate, like over the past, I believe it's been 8 seasons now. I think it's just unfortunate the Giants couldn't replicate anything like what they did in 2014. The 2016 roster, as far as the roster goes, it would probably be a close second in terms of something that's fun to watch. I'm sure fans who were following baseball back then, I'm sure you all remember just what a heartbreaker it was when they lost in the playoffs. I don't think there's one of you that wouldn't have expected the Giants to win that game, So if 2014 is the high point in the minds of Giants fans, 2016 is definitely the low point. They raised their hopes high that postseason, clearly, and then it just, you go from the highest of highs to just dipping, just dropping what you think is going to be a win. And I really don't even know how to describe it, but that year, I think when you just think about it, it can just give, it probably gives you this kind of depressed feeling of like, and especially just the way the Giants are now, how they're not perennial playoff contenders. You probably feel like you've lost something and the Giants need to get it back, and as each year goes by and they don't do it, I'm sorry if I'm being a little vague, but that's probably how it feels when you kind of think back to 2016. And after that, they were just kind of down in the dumps until 2021, which, having Crawford, Posey, and Belt, and Bumgarner, and Hunter Pence too, like until after the end of the 2018 season, I think it's just unfortunate that the Giants couldn't replicate what they'd done in the beginning of the decade. Then in 2021, they won 107 games, and fans expected them to win the World Series that year, and they didn't do it. But yeah, if you are asking me what I think back to, it's the 2014 team. That's the one that I think is always going to stick in my mind as just the funnest one to watch, because that Game 7, I've seen it through at least 2 times. I say at least 2 times. And it's just, they're clinging to a 1-run lead. It's just one of the best things about baseball that there is. A related question that anyone could ask is, how would you assemble kind of an imaginary team of the best Giants players from all time? I definitely think Bumgarner and Posey would be on the list. Clearly, Barry Bonds would, and which it just made me think, if Bonds had just played like 1 decade later than he did, I mean, that would have been super cool, but baseball history, it is what it is. So that could be a related question, how you'd assemble a team of the best Giants players from every generation. It's just something that I thought of. It'd be interesting. Don't have the time to do that tonight. Anyway, let's go to our takeaways from the game. The Giants beat the Brewers 5-2. It's good. They're winning games, and I predicted that they would pick up, and I kind of did expect them to as spring training moved along. I don't think their losing streak was predictive of anything horrible. Sean Hjelle started and pitched 3 innings. I think he gave up 1 earned run. Can't remember exactly, but pretty good day for him. Last September, he was used to pitch multi-innings in games. He, like every 5 days, but for some unstated reason, he wasn't pitching those first innings. The Giants preferred to go with an opener. It's probably just the way they were choosing to break Hjelle into it, by having him go out there and throw, but not immediately face the opposing team's best hitters. It's probably just what Gabe Kapler and the coaches decided was best for Hjelle as a particular pitcher, not to jump into everything all at once. I don't know the details, but if it was best for him, then it was a wise decision to organize the management of their roster that way. Keaton Winn got 2 innings of work in as well. And on offense, Michael Conforto homered for his 3rd straight game. And that tells us that Conforto, he's got power. The Giants signed him. No one was too excited about him, and they shouldn't have been, because he missed the whole 2022 season due to injury, and that those guys are never the ones to be the most excited about. And there's always a recovery process, and sometimes that creates uncertainty on their performance. But Conforto now is showing power coming back, and that's a good sign, and it's pretty reasonable to think that he will bat in the first, second, or third spot when season begins, at least as a lefty against right-handed pitching. I think that's a very logical guess to make on Conforto. So it is exciting to see how we'll do. I think Jock Peterson definitely will bat cleanup. Steven Piscotty, he had an RBI double for the Giants, and Roberto Perez had a home run. That, I don't know if that signals a bit more intensity, the four-way competition for the catcher position. I still think Blake Savole has a pretty good lead on either Perez or Austin Wynns. He might not make it, though, if the Giants either decide he's not quite ready for major league play, or if they just decide he needs to get at-bats as a starter. And obviously, that if they say that for Savole, it's probably the case with Bart too, and Bart would have to be the starting catcher for the Giants in that case, and then that open up an opportunity for Wynns or Perez to make it. So Perez hit a home run. If he keeps showing off some occasional power in spring training, it'll at least bring something kind of next to his name that can make him kind of a candidate a little bit back there in the distance. So we'll see how things turn out. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please keep the comments and questions coming. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.